My name is Professor Jacqueline Reich, and I am a professor of political science. I also coordinate the Global Awareness Seminar. And the trip we're going to talk about is a special section of the Global Awareness Seminar. These trips to Africa happen every year. So it's a course that you take in the spring semester, followed by a trip to a particular African country. This would not be possible without our sponsoring organization, which is the African Sisters Education Collaborative, or ASEC, because that's rather a mouthful. And so as you can see on the slide there, it's the service trip, but it's sponsored by ASEC, nice and bold. And so we want to say a little bit about what ASEC is and what it does. We're just one piece of the overall program. So I'm going to invite Professor Emerita of Computer Science, Sister Lisa Oliveri, to come up and explain. She has been involved with ASEC from the beginning and is the official Chestnut Hill College representative for the entire ASEC organization. So Sister Lisa, if you would join us, please.
I'm happy to be here. And as Chestnut Hill College celebrates its 100th anniversary, ASEC is celebrating its 25th. And so we are trying to incorporate throughout the year and to let people know what ASEC is and how Chestnut Hill College is a big part of ASEC. And so I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about what ASEC is. So we're looking at the African Sisters Education Collaborative that was established in 1999 by 4 Catholic universities and colleges and their congregations. The purpose of ASEC was to educate sisters so that they could help the people that they serve. And they have found that educated sisters are key players in overcoming many of Africa's development challenges. The congregations and the colleges that are involved in ASEC, or there were the founding colleges and congregations, were Chestnut Hill College and the Sisters of St. Joseph, Marywood University and the Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary of Scranton, Rosemont College and the Society of the Holy Child of Jesus, and Newman University and the Sisters of St. Francis. The mission of ASEC is to facilitate education for religious women in Africa, and the education they receive enhances the education they give, the health services they provide, the economic, social, and environmental and spiritual services that the sisters provide to the people that they serve. ASEC offers education in different forms. It offers the African women religious education through 5 different programs. The Sisters Leadership Development Initiative, which is known as SLDI, the Higher Education for Sisters in Africa, which is known as HESA, a scholarship program, service learning, and something called dissemination of best practices. The 2 that really are impacted by Chestnut Hill College are Higher Education for Sisters in Africa and service learning. And so we will look at both of those very briefly. To give a little bit of a history of ASEC, the idea of ASEC was formed back in 1999, thus the 25th anniversary. But the first action that was taken in the United States was at a conference in 2004 that took place partly here at Chestnut Hill and partly here at Marywood University. And at that time, we brought over some of the leaders of the 5 countries that were being involved in ASEC at that point and asked them what did their sisters need. We didn't want to decide, like, we think you need this, but ask them what they felt they needed for their sisters. And the first thing was education and technology training. And so at the conference, we showed them how we could provide education for their sisters through technology. This was one of the pictures from the conference. As a result of that, the next year in 2005, 2 sisters went to Kenya. I was one of those 2 sisters to teach the sisters, and 2 other sisters went to Ghana to teach basic technology. And so these were some of the sisters that I taught in 2005. They had never seen a computer before. So it was really, they didn't know what a mouse was other than something that ran on the floor. So we had to really go slowly, but they were so eager and to learn. The following year, we brought 1 sister from each country to the United States. They came here, they went to Marywood, and we taught them a little bit more advanced technology so they could learn how to take care of the computers a little bit. And so these are some pictures of them here at Chestnut Hill in Martino Hall, learning how to take apart a computer and how to care for it. A few years later, we began to teach a little bit of web design because the sisters found that, the congregations found that if they went to go for a grant, to write for a grant, they wanted, as part of the grant, some web presence. And if they didn't have it, they had a harder time getting the grant. And so we taught, and most of their congregations, their ministries didn't have any web presence, so we taught them how to do that. And so around 2007, ASEC began to organize its programs. And one of the first programs it had was the Sisters Leadership Development Initiative, which provides a certificate to the sisters after they go through 2 years of training, either in a technology, administration, and finance training. So that helps them both in their ministries and with their congregations. The picture here is showing a sister that went through SLDI training, and she is helping women to learn how to give better nutrition to their children. Another part of ASEC is called HESA, or the Higher Education for Sisters in Africa, and this program allows sisters to actually get their degrees. From their bachelor's, some of them get their master's, and they're even beginning a couple to get their doctorate. And so the picture here is of one of the groups of sisters that I had in 2014, and I go over there for a month to teach them how to use Canvas, how to do research, how to do whatever they need to do to take courses online. And then the next year, they take courses online here. So they are students at Chestnut Hill College during that time. This is the group of students that are students here right now, okay, except for me. So I don't know. I think it's hard to tell. I blend in so well. But so right now they are taking courses with adjunct faculty in SCPS, and so they are college classmates here at Chestnut Hill. The other program that most of this program is about is the Service Learning Program. And that Service Learning Program allows students, faculty, and sisters from Chestnut Hill, Marywood, Newman, and Rosemont to travel to ASEC African countries. We've been to Kenya, to Ghana, to Tanzania. And as you will hear, it's an immersed in-service opportunities that you work side by side with Catholic sisters. And those sisters that you work with are generally those that went through the SLDI program. So they have been familiar with ASEC as well. And so this is a picture of one of our former students, some other students from both Marywood and here, and some of the service learning programs. This is one that was in Kenya as well. And I think there's at least one familiar face there. And so All of these, this is to try to show that service learning, it's an important part of ASEC, but it's just one piece. And so you, as anyone that participates in that, is participating in a program that's much bigger than just the service learning. And so hopefully those who participate in the service learning get a sense of ASEC as a whole and how you are an integral part of that whole program. And so we present this and anything that we can do this year to promote the 25th anniversary of ASEC. There'll be a gala here on December 7th, and all of the people from Marywood, from ASEC will be coming to celebrate ASEC and all that it has done and continues to do for the people in Africa. And so I say, Madasi, which means thank you in Fante, which is Ghana, not Kenya, but that's what I leave you with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, while she's helping to get us lined up here, she can't say this, but I can. The sisters have a profound impact in Africa. And actually, Professor Macaulay helped me have words to explain the impact. The sisters are very trusted in the community. They work at the ground level. And I quote you all the time, Professor Macaulay, sisters are not in this for the money. They're not in this for the fame. They are truly there to serve, and they have tremendous street cred. And so as people look and say, how do we help people in Africa? I think ASEC has really hits on something that work with these African sisters who already are trusted in their community. And by educating them, we can help them become more developed, these countries, I mean. So thank you, Sister Lisa, so much for that great presentation. We're going to all take a chance to present, but I'm just going to mention some of the basics about the trip. So we had 7, so now we're talking about the 2024 trip. We had 7 students from Chestnut Hill College, plus 2 students from Marywood University participating. The Chestnut Hill College students were Kiana El-Islam. She couldn't be here today, unfortunately. She's a junior in the Montessori program for early childhood education. Steve Giannini, a psychology major, is graduated, and so he was a senior last year. Makani Thornhill, who is with us today, she's a senior this year, but was a junior then, and is media and communication major. Here she is. Well, she's going to have some words, so. Mackenzie McCarty also couldn't be here today. Forensic biology major, was a junior on the trip. Alexis Saar, a senior who's now graduated, cannot be here today. Double major, psychology and political science. Sky Bennett, also senior then, graduated now. Law and legal studies, political science. And Isabella Schmelzer, who is with us today. She's early education, pre-K to grade 4. Do you notice the wide variety of majors we had? I mean, all of the major disciplines are mentioned, natural sciences, humanities, social science, all majors are welcome. So we had about 3 weeks in Nairobi, Kenya, and we were doing service and observation activities. Also some touristing, and it all was part of the education that we received by going there. Each student worked to raise $2,000 plus. Now, $2,000 was owed to ASEC as their contribution to the trip. This is a deal. $2,000 for 3 weeks in Africa. You get on that plane, everything is covered. Your flight, all your meals, your housing, ground transportation, admission to all of the activities, $2,000, believe me. It cost almost twice that much for ASEC to send a single individual. It's not all the money, though. Before you get on the plane, you got to get a passport if you don't already have one. Vaccinations, and one in particular is hundreds of dollars. That's the yellow fever vaccine. So the cost to a student or a mentor is really closer to $2,500, $2,800, depending on whether you have some of those things already or not. Before you take the trip, you enroll in a special global awareness seminar for the spring semester where you do all kinds of different things to prepare for this wonderful, wonderful experience. Let's see, right. Okay, and so, yeah, Bella, turn it over to you.
Hello, I'm Isabella Schmelzer. I'm an elementary education pre-K4 major, and I went on the Kenya trip last summer from May 20th to June 9th. We had to take a 14-hour plane ride. I had only ever been on a plane for 2 hours at most, which most of my peers had been as well. So a 14-hour flight was a very different experience, but as soon as we got off the flight, we were very quickly able to find the person who was coming to get us. All travel was arranged previously by ASEC, so we had someone from the Dorothea Center come to the airport to pick us up, which was very nice, and it was quite a drive back to the Dorothea Center through streets that were unlike anything that we have here. They reminded me a lot about Wildwood, actually. If you're walking on the boardwalk, the streets there kind of reminded me of that, of all the stores and the people just milling around. We were very excited to get started. Many of us, almost all of us, had never been to Kenya except for Professor Reich. So we really had no idea what was in store for us, what was going to be happening, even what we were going to be eating. We really had no clue. These are some of the students or the girls who were at the center. Many of them were not yet students in the adjacent school compound. But these were the girls who lived at the center. They spent all day there. They did their schooling there. And over the course of 3 weeks, we got to become really close to them. So there were many different aspects of our service learning. There were two aspects primarily used by us on the trip, and that was working around the compound of the Dorothea Center and going over to the school. So at the compound, we would work with the girls and help them further their education. Some of these girls were 12, 13, 14 years old and had just learned to read because they had been on the streets of Nairobi. And then at the compound, at the school compound, it was very similar to just a regular Catholic school here, a very small Catholic school, albeit, but it was very similar, the teaching styles, how many students were in a classroom even, so some of us got to experience that as well. And the school was the Our Lady of the Assumption Primary School, so they went from grades pre-K to 8th grade, and I had a chance to work with the littlest ones and the oldest ones. I know some of us had only been with the older ones, right? No? I'm the only one who was. Okay. Steve was with the young ones too. They loved Steve. He played with them a lot. Here's a picture of Steve actually in his class. That's probably a math class. I can't see what it is necessarily, but honestly, they didn't know what to do with us as much as we didn't know what to do while we were there. So the day before, they had told Steve, all right, we're doing math tomorrow, here's what we're learning. And they gave him the workbook. And then that night, all night, he was just studying up, because he couldn't remember any of that. So he worked on that a lot. And then there's Professor Reich with her class. Do you remember which class that was?
I don't in particular, but I wasn't doing math. And I also, we would either be teaching or sitting in the back of the room, and I really enjoyed sitting in the agriculture classes. That was so interesting to me. But when you think about it, it would be important for students to be taking a class on agricultural practices, and that was very, very interesting. They had studying English, they had social studies. These were courses that I did, also religious studies. So it's going to be one of those that I'll be in front of. I want to point out, do you notice that now the lower grades, the pre-K, grade 1, will have things on the walls. But the grades 4 through 8, which was a separate wing, nothing. And in fact, that's not even a real blackboard. That's just a painted surface that can pick up chalk, better than just regular paint. And, we had to really get out of our high-tech ways of thinking about teaching and just really learn from the teachers who were there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bella was a star.
Yes, I worked a lot with the little ones, as my major suggests. So it was very, very different not having even a whiteboard, and I realized how deeply we rely on our technology here. Even just simple things such as, I would like to give these students a worksheet. How can you do that? There's no worksheet to give. There's no paper to give a worksheet on. They have their notebooks, and many of them even share their textbooks with their neighbor or in groups of 4. So getting out of having to rely on that technology was a bit of a struggle for a lot of us, I think. Here's more images in the classroom. Kiana and I had been in the PP2, the pre-primary 2 classroom often, and that's about kindergarten age level. So this is what their classroom layout would look like in the younger grades. They just had these benches, and the students were more still there than I have ever seen a kindergartner sit still here, partially because of how they're taught. Many of the teachers were even a bit confused, I want to say, when we were talking about punishment and discipline in American classrooms. We were like, no, we cannot lay a hand on our students at all, ever. They were like, not even a little pinch? No, not a pinch, not anything. So the learning styles are very different, and the discipline is very different as well. And we actually tried to implement in some of these classrooms different things that we do here in the US, such as centers, where there's a group of 4 or 5 students doing one thing, and there's multiple different centers around the room, which our teacher loved. She was implementing it as we left as well, which was very nice to see. We read them stories, we played dances and songs, and even though they had very limited English skills, they're 5, they were really able to connect with us. Sometimes they would come up to you and they would just start speaking. You'd go, I'm so sorry, I don't know what you're saying. I had a few times where someone came up to me and tried to tattle, and I knew they were tattling because they were pointing and they were angry. And I would have to ask one of the older girls, what is he talking about? I have no clue. They were speaking in Swahili. They really couldn't tell what they were doing as they were saying it. But it was just very nice to see that they were just so open with us. And doing the songs and dances, they love to learn what we do here. We did the Bumblebee song and had them dancing around the room. So that was really nice as well. And then I actually sat in on a Kiswahili class. So I'd assume it's very similar to our English class. I say assume because I could not understand anything. But I just sat and observed, and it was very similar to what a 4th grade English class would be doing. They were working on sentence structure and grammar and things like that. And this is an example of the books that they use. This book in particular had been used by 2 students who were sitting next to each other because they didn't have their own books.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Kristoff. I was able to serve as the staff mentor for the trip. It was an amazing experience. I think my favorite word during the whole time was amazing, just amazing, amazing, amazing. So on this particular slide, you're gonna see, I'm gonna share some information regarding the Dorotea Rehab Center. The center is for street girls ranging between the ages of 8 to 14. There was some girls a bit younger as well. So as you can see on your screen here, we have Selena. She's our little one at the corner with the pink. Selena was roughly like 4 to 5 years old. So they do service young girls as early as 4. The center was established in 2020 due to the increasing number of street girls in Nairobi. The center provides food, shelter, living quarters, food, basic necessities, and also the love and support that the girls deserve and they need. All right, so as you can see here, some amazing images of our time at the center. So on the left-hand side, you'll see me on the floor with the girls. It was an incredible opportunity just to work with them. This had to be maybe day 2 or day 3 on the trip, and we literally got right into it. They're teaching me how to use Lightbright, which I hadn't used since I was a little girl. So they literally was just like, do you know how to do this? I was like, I have no idea. So they were able to teach me how to go back into kind of like my childhood, which was really rewarding for me. The center is Alice. Alice is one of the schoolgirls at the center. She was just incredible. She was always willing to want to learn. And what we would do as the primary instructor for this particular site, as well as 2 to 3 of our students that would be there, we would actually help them with basic arithmetic, reading, math. But what we'll do too, as we're working with them, we would grade them. So they actually enjoy the grading process because whenever they would get a check mark, they know they did good. And that was the sense of the support that they needed because when they were in the streets, they never had that. So during our time at the center, we did arts and crafts, we did song and dance. We also had special topics courses as well. So we did a course on etiquette. So making sure as they are transitioning out of the center, when they're going out to the formal school, they knew proper etiquette, how to sit properly, how to say yes, thank you, please. In addition, they had a course about human rights. So knowing their rights, what is proper when they're going out in society, how they should navigate through anything going on. In addition, I did a course with them in French. So I'm very privileged to say that I'm able to speak French, not too fluently, but I'm able to navigate through it. So I was able to teach them a course about French, and every time I would come in, they're like, Natalie, can you teach me more? Can you teach me more? So they were just enthralled and excited to learn about different languages. In addition, on our far right, you'll see Mackenzie, one of our current students here at CHC. She's an avid chess player, so she was able to teach them how to play chess. Okay, now this image here, we have a familiar face, Makani. Makani, as discussed, she's one of our comms major. Makani is amazing. She was able to help the center build a website in such a short period of time. So she was able to implement all her skills that she learned just through her own personal experience, but also her experience here at Chestnut Hill College to build a site for the center. And I'm gonna have Makani stand next to me to share a little bit more about the work she did on the site.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I took my senior seminar class last semester, so I was able to create like a Google Doc website. So it kind of gave them a shell of like what actual interface website would look like, but it was just something for the parents, for them to share with the parents so they could get more information on what the school was, what the rehabilitation center was, and also the health center there. That was just like a really good way for me to like see the bigger picture, see everything. Like, obviously when you're there and you're serving, you know you're there for a bigger purpose, but to be able to like interact with the people who are helping build the health center, interacting with the different staff, and just seeing all the different parts come together and be able to put that onto like a digital platform, it was really fun. And yeah, it was a great way to like connect with some of the staff people that I hadn't met or interacted with. So
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Makani. All right, so what we're viewing here is when we had the opportunity to visit the Kuwaitu Rehabilitation Center. So very much like the Dorotea Center, this one is specifically for the boys. So I know Jackie, several years ago, she had the opportunity to service and assist the street boys. This time around, we had the opportunity to assist and serve the street girls. So very much the same way is to provide them the necessary aid and needs that they need when they're transitioning to formal school, but also going out to society. The boys are a lot different than the girls, a lot different. They have a lot more energy. I don't know if the word is rowdy, but they just have a lot of robust energy. And it was just a stark difference how you see how they navigate just through conversation, how they were quicker to like, they saw Steve, one of our students right there, they just started playing with him right away. Our girls, they greeted us, they loved us, but there was a little bit of just little hesitation, resistance. So regardless, we had an amazing time. We had a chance to play basketball with them. We had a lunch that day, which was incredible. Yeah, right, Makani? Beautiful spread. The food was so good. And also that day too, there's gonna be a video at the end we're gonna show, but we were able to purchase some items that were actually created by the street boys. So one of the items I was able to purchase that day, which was handmade by the street boys, and the proceeds went directly to the center, was this bag here. So everything that you're viewing here is just the rich culture of Kenya, but exactly what we have to provide back, So that's just some information regarding the Kuwaitu Rehab Center. Now, in addition, we were able to visit an HIV center as well. The name of it was called the Kantulengo Center. It started in 1994, which aimed to take care of vulnerable, abandoned, and orphanage children who are either infected or affected by HIV from all Kenyan locations, specifically Nairobi, okay? So this particular day was a bit difficult, just based off of my own personal feelings. You have an idea what you're gonna walk into, but when you're there, you don't know what it is. And it was so touching to see how the girls were able just to greet us at the door. They literally greeted us with a song. And we just started smiling, and then all around the room, tears just started flowing. Because deep down what they're experiencing. But by their face, their feelings, their emotions, it's like they don't know. They just don't know, and they're just here full of life. They see new faces, they're just happy. So it was just a beautiful experience to be with them. We were able to feed the babies. Bella was there. She was just comforting, especially just who she is as an educator herself. She was just so good. Makani, this is actually, we have an idea, we're not too sure, but we think this is Makani's relative. And Makani literally called this baby her son. Because this little boy, such a cutie pie, looks exactly like Makani. So yes, that was a great experience there. All right. In addition, we were able to see a lot of great attractions, cultural centers, tourist attractions, and we're going to transition over to the National Museum here. So Nairobi National Museum is the oldest and only national park in Nairobi. Its primary goal is to protect animals, okay? So they're wildlife. It has a wide range of wildlife species, birds. So you'll see a lot of cool images. We were able to take some fun shots. So you'll see me over there doing the lion, Jackie as well. In addition, we have Mackenzie right there, which was really great. In addition, we were able, let me just make sure I'm on the right side, okay. We were able to visit the Karuru water forest at Karuru Forest, excuse me. This was a great opportunity for us to do a lot of gazing. We were able to walk around a lot, explore the waterfall there. So as you can see, we took some images just as a group and experienced this. Thank you. So this was really discussed in our book, all the information as well. And the great thing about having this book as context for the class, as we were visiting different locations, it just brought us back to the class. So it's really essential why this particular program or this global awareness course is needed, because the educational component, comes back to where we're able to learn more as we're on site in Kenya. Okay? So I'm going to transition this over to Makani.
Okay, so we were able to visit the Bomas, which essentially is the center where all of the different Kenyan tribes come together and perform like their traditional tribal dances, songs, and it was just really a cool and eye-opening way to hear the music. I think you hear about the different instruments and drums like through your own research, through the books that we read, and then also like me being a person that just loves music in general, being able to hear like, oh, like I've heard that in the Kanye West song, like, oh, I've heard that here, like just being able to identify like my own personal experience with music and connect that to what I was hearing in real life in Kenya was just such a great and eye-opening experience. So I don't know if I'm in the next picture, but during the performance, we were able to join some of the Bomas dancers for some of the tribes. As you can see, Steve, he was killing it. He went out there like 3-4 times. He was a consistent performer. I think they even tried to like get him, recruit him. But yeah, so these are like, we were just dancing. It was just a really fun time. At some point, we all just kind of got up and danced, but it was just super fun and cool. And then also to see some of the dances that I feel like we currently in America, we danced similarly. So it was just a really good experience or an eye-opening experience to see like some of the trends and tribal dances are connected to what we see here in America. And then also the Bomas, we were also able to explore the outdoor museum. And these are some like authentic tribal huts. And this also brought us back to the book where they talk about having multiple wives. We saw like the second and third wives hut. And it was just, again, cool to see how what we read and what we learned in the classroom was brought to life in our eyes. And then, is this my part or?
Actually, no.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to Bella.
Steve is also an electrician, so.
And he like does construction work as well. He's jack of all trades. So of course we saw a lot of animals, many more than we ever see here in America. I'm not sure if anyone even got a picture of it, but as we would drive, you would look over on the sidewalk and there'd be like baboons, some sort of large monkey, just like relaxing on the side of the road, which was very fun to see, honestly. But we also went to a giraffe rehabilitation center. There we fed the giraffes. We had to stand a good distance away. Oh, there we go. We had to stand a good distance away as we fed them because they do headbutt, and there were signs about it. There was an attendant there telling us to stay back, but they had older giraffes, they had little baby giraffes as well. I say little as if they weren't 10 feet tall. But one of my favorite experiences was the elephant orphanage for baby elephants. I got to pet an elephant, which was incredible. This day we were kind of running around and like this was at the end of our safari, everyone was like exhausted, but we made it just in time. Half of us made it just in time.
Some of us did not get to see this because they were closing.
Yeah,
And that was very sad.
Yeah, we had made it like just as they were closing. So some of the members of our trip hadn't gotten to see this, but hopefully they all get a chance to go back at some point and see some baby elephants. And it was really nice as well. One of our one of our peers was a wheelchair user, and the trip was so accommodating. Even like this, we were going through mud, and the other people on our trip were so helpful in any way that she had needed, which was very nice to see. And there was a reptile house at the National Museum. Half of our members were scared. They did not want to be anywhere near the reptiles and the snakes and all this and that. Some of them got to hold, what is that, a frog? It's a lizard. Some people got to hold a lizard or a snake or what. I personally wasn't there for that, but there were many reptiles in this area, and it was incredible to see. I think Makani.
Okay, so now we're at the part where we were able to visit the safari. This was just like a very, it was just like a breathtaking experience. Like, I don't know any other way to explain it. I think we all see National Geographic channels, like, oh, that's so cool. But to be there in the moment and be like steps away from actual animals that you see only on TV was just really interesting. And I'm not sure if we have a picture of the Maasai people, but before entering the safari, we were able to interact with the Maasai people, which is a popular or prominent tribe in Kenya. And one, again, that was just really cool because we heard about it in the book that we read during our course. But also, it was just very emotional to hear the drums, and just being an African-American person, being in any close proximity to African culture is just a really powerful, and I was grateful for the experience. So just hearing the drums and hearing the calls, and like you feel the drums through your body, it just was a really emotional experience. So yeah, this is a zebra. I think those are rhinos. A crane, a crested crane. And then also before we were like, as we were walking in, we saw, I'm not sure what these are called. Warhogs, yeah. So the famous, yes, literally like street cats, literally. And yeah, we saw a bunch of animals before we even entered the actual safari. And then here are some pictures of us on the safari in the Jeep. It really felt like I was in a movie, like in a Jeep, like mud, I just felt like I was living a very like crazy African safari dream. And then also we were able to see like the actual Nairobi city in the park. So it kind of made me think about how sometimes when I'm kind of far out in South Philly and I can see the city like right there, that was a like similarity that I brought back from the comparison from Philly to here. Here are some giraffes. I should know more about like animals.
The giraffes were playing fighting.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. These were young adolescents, we were told by our males, young adolescent males. Our driver told us. And they were basically, roughhousing with their necks. But that's preparation for true, fighting over females. And it can be to the death when they become adults. So to see this behavior, like we're sitting there in our Rover, watching this.
And they're
was
really going
something.
at it. Like,
yeah.
I was like kind of scared, like, okay, let's just drive past this because this is getting crazy. And what are the name of these animals? Antelopes. Okay. Sorry, I know these animals when I was there, but like here it's just okay. We also saw lions, which this is my favorite. Like this was my favorite experience. I'm a Leo, so to see lions in the full flesh, like other than the zoo in Philly, was just like such a cool experience. I think that, okay. Okay, so also these are the farm animals, or some of the farm animals that were actually on the Dorothea Rescue Center location. So here are some pigs and some cows. Thankfully, we didn't eat any of these animals, from my knowledge, since I was in the kitchen. But this was just also cool to see, just see how like the way they farm, the way they interact with the animals. I think like sometimes you get misconceptions of like how animals are treated, but these are like their babies. Like they take care of them, they wash them, and just being able to like, you're done with your service for the day and you just want to pet a cow. Like just being one with these animals that they interact with every day was just super cool. And here. There's a little baby cat like laying there. This cat was terrorizing us the whole time we were there. Every time we sat down to eat dinner, they were just like, this cat was just like, I need food. So I'm gonna like sit in your lap purposefully and I'm gonna wait for you to drop food. And it was just, I love cats. So this was, everyone didn't like the cat, but I secretly hated the cat in front of everyone, but this was my friend while I was there. And here are also some chickens. We did eat some of these chickens. So, yeah.
So I'm going to just buzz through this. I want to point out that there's downtown Nairobi, but then we were actually, it's still considered Greater Nairobi, but it felt very rural, did it not, where we were? And to get into town to see some of the things that we saw, we would have to get on the road. And because the amount of traffic, I was there 7 years ago in 2017. I could not believe how many cars I was seeing, how many gas stations. You'll see there's a picture one. I just was blown away. That tells you they must be doing a good business with a lot of cars. But the traffic meant it took us a long time. So we saw a lot of things on the road that gave us a context for other stuff. So this is a matatu. These are privately owned transportation buses that people take and get around. They are just decorated so wildly. You might see a rock and roller, you'll see an advertisement for Jesus, and just various other things. We just were always so interested in that. This is a roadside market. Out the front window, you can see we had to slow down for this donkey-pulled vehicle. There we go with another matatu. We'd see cows along the road. These were the Maasai herding along the median strip. And it's a very religious country, so little churches. Water is an issue, so we saw several people with hand carts pulling these big yellow containers. There's a donkey on the side of the road. I mean, you just see all kinds of stuff. A Smurf matatu, I thought was pretty cool. This was really wild. Hundreds of goats, yes. Now this is looking out the side window and then looking out the front. So that slowed traffic down that day as we waited for them to all get by. But then you get closer to downtown Nairobi and it's the very developed, in 7 years, I kept saying, right, I can't believe how much has changed. This is one of the gas stations. Sorry for the blurry picture. Turn it over to Bella.
So we stayed at the Dorothea Center, and these are some pictures from our first day with the girls. Right from the start, they were so loving to us. They put flowers in our hair, they danced with us, they showed us songs that they knew. A lot of them could speak English very well, so communication wasn't a very big issue. The little one in the top right corner in the yellow dress, that's Selena. She was the youngest. So she didn't speak much English, but the older girls were always ready to translate for her. Here's a picture of us dancing with the girls. Natalie went right in it. Makani, I think, went right in it. A few of us were just like, jump up, go right in it. I took a little bit, but then that's me in the background being taught some steps. So my mom was very worried where I would stay, if I would have plumbing and electricity. She, like many Americans, had no clue what to think about Africa as a whole, let alone Kenya, the country. But we slept in real rooms with electricity. There was running water, and I think the next slide has a picture of inside the room. This is where we took our meals in the tent outdoors. They put that up specifically for us. There was always food available. There was a fridge outside that would occasionally beep, and but there was a fridge outside. There was everything that we could need. And as I mentioned before, one of our peers was a wheelchair user. They noticed she had some difficulty getting along the pebbles that were on the ground. So they put down stone slabs at our meal area so that it would be easier for her to maneuver around. Here's where we slept. We had little princess nets, we called them, but they were like bug nets. Mosquito nets, yeah, so that they didn't work much for me. There was one time I had a moth, a butterfly, and a grasshopper, I think, living behind my bed, but, and then there's the bathroom. It was a wet bath, so it was a bit different to maneuver and understand, because here we're so used to you get in the shower and then close yourself in. Here it was just okay, water everywhere. This is one of the best things many of us have ever eaten. They're called mandavi. Oh, mandazi. Oh,
I misspelled it, sorry.
yeah. They're called mandazi. They are kind of like beignets, but thicker and heartier. But I don't know, they're so good. Someone has the recipe. I'm gonna get it eventually. On our first day there, this was our first meal. It was hot dogs and lentils, and it was it was nice to see that they didn't know us, but they knew that we were Americans coming to somewhere that we had never been before, that was foreign to us, and they went, okay, hot dogs. They know hot dogs, let us get into it, very slowly, because eventually we got to try things that we had never tried before. I had never tried lentils. So it was very nice to have that familiarity of just a hot dog. And then breakfast as well looked very similar to something we'd eat here. They were similar to cornflakes, but if you were buying them from not Kellogg's. And then here's another meal. This is what our meal station looked like. They always fed us, always made sure that we had enough to eat, which was so nice, considering that some of our preconceptions were that people in Africa don't have any food or water or this or that, but they had enough to give us, and they were happy to give to us.
I should have eaten before I came.
It's all so good. Okay.
So this was our last day at the center. Very emotional day. 3 weeks just spending time with each other, not only as just peers, but also just with the students and the instructors there, the staff there. So it was a very tough last day, but we got through it. We were able just to learn from each other that day too. The staff did an incredible job when it came to just helping us that day. So they had a wonderful farewell dinner for us. They had the spread of everything. And they were just it was just so heartwarming. In addition, we were able to spend extra time with the girls. So that day, we actually traveled. When we were traveling back to the airport, the girls came with us. So they were in our vehicles with us. We were able to have extra time with them to talk, give our hugs, our love. A lot of tears were flowing that day. But as I said, we were able to get through it because we knew that we were always going to be connected down the line, which was incredible. So as you can see, some cool images here. We have some of our sisters. That's Sister Margaret. Sister Margaret is the head. She's the head sister at the Assumption School. And Sister Margaret is a firecracker. And I say that with so much respect because she is incredible. But Sister Margaret, she joined us on our farewell day, and she was able to dance and sing with us, which was incredible. You'll see the girls, what they did was they actually got dressed. So they wore their beautiful little gowns, and they were able to greet us with those gowns. And as we were leaving, they left us with those gowns too. So it was just a nice welcoming and a nice farewell. And just the thought of them going through all their issues, but it's the thought that they just wanted to make sure that we felt that welcome, but as we were leaving, we felt that love as well. Okay, more images, as you can see. So we have Makani there, Alexis dancing, Bella as well with the girls, myself with Selena. Selena's our little one. She was just the star of the show. She knew all her camera angles. She was incredible. So I think she was the youngest street girl there. Yeah, she was the youngest street girl, and she also had her sister there too. Okay, more images, as you can see, throwing up the peace sign, Steve dancing, as well as Alexis dancing with one of the older street girls.
Steve had really severe sunblock.
Yeah, he did okay. Yeah, he wasn't too bad. Yeah.
It looks like he just got milk.
No, not really. He did, yeah. But Steve was our only male. He was our only male student there. And Steve was honestly the best. All the girls, the street boys, they just were drawn to him because Steve has an electric energy. He's awesome. He's very personable and very kind, as well as all our other students. Yeah, he was the dad of the group. Yeah, and he was also our pharmacist. So he came with a his significant other is a registered nurse. So he was able to bring all like medications, and they were actually utilized. So he was very helpful with that too. Okay. And as you can see, more images. Our sisters at the bottom. So we have Sister Jennifer. Let's see. Kiana. Sister Margaret, and Sister Joyce, Sister Joyce. So these are our sisters. They were with us the whole time. Incredible women, and they were an amazing resource to us. And I do know I've stayed connected with them since I left Kenya, and they've been so helpful for me and to me. More images as well. And Jackie.
Okay, almost to the end. Some of the participants did, even though they couldn't be here, were willing to share some insights. So this was Kiana had these to share. So this is direct quotes. This was a unique and life-changing experience. I got to see traditional dances from different tribes performed at the Bomas. I got to do mass at a women's prison. Kiana is Muslim, so that was very interesting to her. I will never forget the inmate who saw me for me and accepted me as her sister. Our handshake symbolized our unity and sisterhood despite our different worlds. I held precious babies needing tender care and love and played ball with boys rescued from the streets. Each service site and tourist activity gave me a new taste of the culture. This experience exposed me to a life of poverty I never knew. It was awakening to see the children at the school she's talking about drink porridge daily, wear clothes just because they fit, and sleep on the ground. The walls in the classrooms were bare, and multiple children shared one book. I watched them cherish the supplies and toys we gave them and knew how much they appreciated them. It is expected not to have easy.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexis. I'm a recent alumni from Chestnut Hill, and I had the privilege of going on the Kenya Service Learning Trip this past May. So as soon as we got onto the site, I remember the doors opened and we were traveling on gravel. We were like in this big Greyhound bus. And as soon as the girls saw the bus, they like rushed towards the bus. There was like 15, 20 girls rushing towards the bus. We had the windows down. They're screaming, they're saying hi, like they're in Swahili and English, and they grabbed our bags. They showed us where we were gonna be staying. Just very, very, the girls were so friendly, so open, so honest, and that to me, I took pride in that because it was just I don't know, they were just excited. I was excited to get this trip going, so that was really nice. The second would probably be our departure, actually. I was excited to go home. 3 weeks you're away from home, you're like a little anxious, but I didn't quite realize how much it was going to impact me leaving the girls. So we had actually were able to go to the airport, but the girls were in the bus with us as well. It was never a dull moment, but we didn't realize like our time was really up until we said our final goodbyes right by the doors. I was crying, they were crying, and it was kind of just like a sad moment, but at the same time, it just speaks to the volume to which we both impacted each other. Not just me impacting their lives, they also impacted mine. Like, I will never forget them. Oh, Mary. But my last notable memory was we actually during the weekend got to go to the giraffe center, and giraffes are my favorite animals. So the giraffes like right in our faces. Like we were standing on like this balcony, and we had like a cup of like pelts or whatever, and we got to feed them, and like, oh my God, they were just so cute. We saw baby ones, we saw big ones. Like, I just love giraffes so much. I'm sorry, that was probably a little cringy. Overall, like the trip was a 10 out of 10. I wouldn't change anything. Like I like do it. It's such a once in a lifetime experience. Like, I don't know. I don't mean to pressure you. I'm just saying. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
I am so glad we got to share these with you. Oops, there we go. Thank you very much for coming. By the way, I just want to say, I cannot resist saying about Alexis there. Do you notice how she said, I would give the trip a 10 out of 10, I wouldn't change anything? Without going into too much detail, she had the, I guess, most troubling medical experience. So I thought that was really interesting. I wouldn't change anything. I think she would have changed that, don't you think? But clearly wasn't remembering it, so that was great. And so thank you for coming. If you had any questions or wanted to follow up, we would be glad to entertain them. Professor McCauley.
The street children, the street boys and street girls, is this the same way we would think about unhomed people here, or was it different? You know, what percentage? How many kids could you pick up? Was there more kids that you couldn't pick up? You know, I just wanted a little bit more.
I would say similarly to how we have like group homes here in America, it's like similar to that. I know that the Quetu boys, I would say is maybe like 50 boys, maybe. I don't know. It was a larger amount than the rehabilitation center that we lived on for the girls. But I think theirs is a little bit different because they transitioned them into the school that is attached to the rescue center. So I would say it's similar to like a group home that we would see here in America. Similarly for even the little babies, it was probably like 30 or 40 children that were on that site. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think the problem is universal, but I do think that what I gleaned was that the children, a lot of them had parents, but they were still on the street and just unable to take care of these children. The girls, at least, I think would be the same for the boys, were addicted to drugs. So they had to do a, what's the word when you detox, yeah, for them. Some of them, they had, and then again to try to transition them, they had a dormitory. There were some of the kids who lived for the primary school. They lived right there, okay, and they were not all from the rehabilitated street children, but for various reasons. There was a big dormitory. I didn't get a sense, what would you say, at least a third. It seemed like the students that were at the school were also living in this dormitory. But that's where these street girls would then transition to. Sometimes it didn't take. Some would run back to the street. They might miss their parent, their mother, their siblings. And the sisters would go, basically, I could describe it as recruiting trips. They would go and try to talk kids into coming with them, and the parents. So it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing, but it's, one of you said what were their age? Maybe it was you, Bella. They were like 10 and didn't know how to read. They'd been spending that amount of time on the street up until then. So a good question. Yeah, but I think something like that goes on here too. In the U.S. I think it goes on everywhere in the world. So God bless the people who are doing this. Thank you for that question. Any other questions or comments? Or Sister Lisa, she has been to Africa so many times. And I have a question for you, actually, Sister Lisa. Would you notice any, aside from obvious cultural differences, are there any differences? She spent a lot of time in Ghana, but I know also Kenya, also Uganda, right? I know I'm missing a couple places. What would you point out as maybe a difference?
Actually, I think there's more commonality than difference. I think culturally it's foods, language, but people are people. And I think that in a lot of ways it was the same. The first time I went to Africa was Kenya, and it was 20 years ago. It was 2004. So some of the pictures you were seeing, showing especially of Center City, 7 years ago was a difference. 20 years ago, it's just amazing to see how things have changed. But some of the sites I had gone to, so it was kind of a memory for me to see all of that. But I would say definitely there are some cultural differences. I don't know that there is as many street children in Ghana that I would know of, that I saw, but I know that especially in Nairobi, that was a big problem, a big concern.
I know in Ghana, the service site is really not close to Accra, the capital. You have to drive 3 hours. I think our proximity to Nairobi, having an urban center, I think made it maybe more apparent, but.
I mean, Cape Coast, we were near Cape Coast, and that's one of the 3 major cities in Ghana. But being near the sea, there were other ways to actually even earn money from fishing, et cetera. So I think there's difference there than in Nairobi.
Sister Sheila.
In Nairobi? That's just my question. Is the Dorothea Center in the city of Nairobi?
So, yeah, the question is the Dorothea Center in Nairobi? I would say it's greater Nairobi, technically, if you look at, but it's a very rural feel when you get out there. And that's, by design, so it's not so easy for these kids to run back to the streets. That was a problem where 7 years ago where I was, it was a lot closer to downtown Nairobi. And those Sisters for the Street Boys were having a hard time with some of them. Yeah. But any last insights from our students?
I think the only insight that I would say that it wasn't in the slideshow, but I had the privilege of cooking for the girls at the rescue center daily, and also just feeding my peers. And I'm really big on I love music and I love cooking. So just being able to be connected to Kenya in that way and learning the dishes, learning how to make the food, working in a literal wood, like cutting wood in the morning and putting it to use to cook food was just such I don't even know how to explain the experience, but it was so touching to see how I saw the culture before coming, and then being able to experience the culture, getting up at 9 and just cutting cabbage, just doing these things and serving and really getting my hands dirty. It was just super fun, and I wouldn't change my experience in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah.
I think like conceptually we all knew what we were like going into, like we're going to Kenya, like, but that's basically it. Like we had our class that told us basically what we could imagine would happen, but you don't really know until you get there how it will be. And it's something that I would never want to give up. The experience was incredible.
All right, thank you. And I just wanted to share one thing. I really loved how the center or the Kenyan culture, they value time. It's interesting how, and we all know this, we actually had 2 times that were specifically carved out for us to take breaks. And it was at 11 or 11:30 and 4 p.m., which was our tea time. And we would sit down, have the mandazis, and then we would have our tea. And there was one time I was at the health clinic assisting because they were opening a health clinic at the center. And one of the staff members came and said, "You need to come." I said, "Oh no, I'm doing some work." He was like, "No, this is your time to take your break, sit down, and take your tea." And I know I was talking to Jackie and some of the students, and I said, in America, it's so different. We push through everything. We don't think about it because we have to get the work done. It's always kind of that rat race. And I really appreciated that they were just like, this is your time for reflection. This is your time to take that space. This is your time for you. So I just simply loved my time in Kenya. I thank Jackie so much for her mentorship, just all her help, all my questions that I had, even during the class, but also during the trip, and just spending time with the students. It was just a worthwhile opportunity. So thank you.
I'm going to piggyback on the time point, but from a different perspective. So we come there, okay, 8:30, we're supposed to be going. Where's the bus? Where's the bus? We're going to be late. And that actually is one of the problems that happened. We didn't get to see the baby elephants because several things happened to slow us down. Okay, what can you do? Grin and bear it. But that was, I think it was hard for some of us to kind of get off of that American, we have a schedule. And it led to some tense moments as a result, and it's like, look, we're here. We have to adapt to what's going on here. And but this is part of it, right? This is what we all need to, get used to. I just want to thank everybody on the trip. It was an amazing, every time you go, like Sister Lisa said, there's a lot the same, but then there's a lot that's different. The personalities of the people in the group, everybody stepped up at various points. And, there were times when I wasn't feeling well, for example, but then like maybe at a low point when people were griping about the time and we didn't see the baby elephants, but then somebody would, step up from the group and say, but listen, we need to be okay about this. And each of these 2 young women had their points in time when they did that. I appreciated their leadership so much because, you don't have all the answers as a mentor. We're just going along as well, too. But, for Alexis to say 10 out of 10, that is, I'll take that. That was great. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.